LSU dropped a big one in the SEC last week, and they've got a chance to rebound here coming up soon against Alabama. But first, let's talk with Blake Ruffino of AYS Sports about that game against A&M. Blake, how you doing, bud?
Doing all right, TJ. Good to be here. Good to be in the bye week, and then a playoff game against Bama in 2 weeks. So kind of get to reset and go through the bye week, and everybody be pissed off. And so it's been a great time. Everybody's pissed off that you lost, and so it's been glorious.
Yeah, early kind of thoughts on that, but let's start with that A&M game. With that, we'll dive into that game a little more, but just big picture thoughts on that. It felt like a game that LSU was somewhat in control of, and then just mistake after mistake kind of gave A&M a chance and ultimately the game.
Well, see, TJ, here's been what LSU's issues have been, in my humble opinion, over the last couple of weeks, or at least the last month. It's just mainly been that when they make offensive mistakes, the defense picks them up. And then now that the defense, when Marcel Reed came in, that they're unable to get stops or make big plays, the offense then could not take over like the defense had against Ole Miss or against Arkansas or whatever game it may have been. So I think that not playing complementary football, and TJ, here's the thing, the final score, and you know this, just sports in general, the final score does not indicate how close that game was in the fourth quarter. I mean, LSU was down 5 with, I think it was like 7 or 6 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter, and they could have put a drive together going down the field and scored, and they're right back in the football game, and momentum is taken away from A&M. But then when, TJ, you have as many turnovers as LSU has had in the last month, 12 total turnovers in the last month, how you only lost one game against 3 ranked opponents at the time that you played them is pretty remarkable in a way. But then it's also kind of like, man, you kind of scaved through some of this. So they got to eliminate the turnovers. Again, down 5. You're on a drive. You're about to go and score, and then you throw a pick, your third pick of the game. That's how you lose football games.
Yeah, it's tough to win on the road in the SEC just in general. Ask Tennessee about going to Fayetteville. Like, it's tough in general. It's even tougher when you make mistake after mistake after mistake and kind of just give it away. Was there anything outside of the obvious like turnovers and mistakes that disappointed you? What do you think about LSU's defense in this game?
I mean, it's a tale of two halves, right? Like, I mean, TJ, the thing is that I'm not really necessarily mad or upset with them. I mean, they couldn't stop a zone read. Okay. So they gave up. Here's how I want to describe it, because I don't want to say that they played bad, but let me say like what it looks like. Think about this, TJ. A&M scored 21 points off of 47 total yards.
Yeah.
Okay. So think about this. They started a drive at the 8. They started a drive at the 18. They started a drive at their own 35. What do you want me to be mad at them about? Like, okay, so they gave up 35 yards on one drive. Okay, well, they couldn't make a stop. Okay, that's fine. Well, why did they stop there? Or why did they start their drives there? Well, because of turnovers. So, like, everybody that I've seen, looks at like, hey, man, the defense in the second half, they were so bad. Bro, they gave up 37 yards, and you're mad because you're starting to drive at the 8. TJ, if any team in the country starts off their drive first and goal from the 8, they're going to win a lot of football games. Sorry, that's just how it works. I mean, like, what do you want to do? So I am not, because, look, they stood up against Arkansas. They stood up against Ole Miss. They stood up in the second half versus South Carolina. They stood up for you against USC. It's not their fault that they continue to get you turnovers. That's the reason why LSU's good in the turnover margin. They literally are producing turnovers, and you can't go get points off of it. Then you're missing field goals. So LSU fans or fans that look at the game are saying, that defense, there they go again. No, I mean, I can get your point where you're upset about what happened in the second half. I'm not saying that I'm not like upset that you couldn't stop a zone read, but I'm also going to be realistic that you can't start a drive inside the red zone twice and expect, like, what do you expect? I mean, at work, TJ, the best thing that could have happened is they held them to 2 field goals. You still lose. You still lose the football game. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you mad about? So, yes, I am getting animated. I'm just so passionate behind, like, everybody is saying that this Blake Baker hasn't taken this defense a step forward. TJ, by the way, just throwing this out there. This time last year, they were 118th in total defense. Now they're in the mid 50s.
That's a step up.
TJ, that's more than a step up, right? Like, I mean, if you would have told me in the beginning of the season that LSU would have had a defense in the mid 50s, I'd be like, oh, they might be undefeated going into Bama. But because I didn't think that I knew they would turn the ball over because Garrett Nussmeier, just who he is, I didn't think he would turn it over this much.
Yeah. Looking at the other side real quick, are you able to extrapolate? I mean, they beat a bad team the way you're supposed to beat a bad team. And I think Missouri was incredibly overrated, and the fact that they were ranked is probably a little bit laughable. But are you able to extrapolate much from that with Missouri playing, terrible football against anybody with a Paul's quarterback issue?
Are you talking about like A&M beating Missouri?
No, Bama beating Missouri last week.
Oh, okay.
Are you able to take much away from that, or is it just like they beat a bad team the way you're supposed to?
No, I think you're just supposed to be a bad team the way you're supposed to. I mean, like, look, man, I mean, they're first. I mean, through the first, what would that be? What's my math? So 30 minutes. So through the first 24 minutes, CJ, they had 6 points on 2 field goals. They had 3 and outs. They had a turnover on downs. I mean, no, but at the same time, like, that's kind of been the Bama MO. What is good, and I think like Alabama did it last week, and I think Ole Miss did it last week. TJ, I feel like in today's society, you got to take, like, in today's game, I shouldn't say society, but in today's game, like, okay, then they came out and they dominated in the second half. Like, what am I supposed to take about that? I mean, you blanked the team in the SEC, right? Like, I mean, Drew Pine or no Drew Pine, I don't really care. But the thing is that there is something for sure off with them offensively. TJ, I think it's penalties with them. If you go and look at Tennessee, if you go and look at Georgia, if you go and look at Vanderbilt, what did every drive have? Either a crucial penalty, a crucial holding penalty, or a turnover. And outside of that, ironically, Bama's been pretty good. So when you look at teams that have struggled this year that have had these losses, what do all of them have in common? TJ, they have critical turnovers and critical penalties. Yeah. That legitimately is it. Like, I look at Auburn as an example. Bama people hate Auburn, but stay with me here. TJ, if I would tell you right now that Auburn's a top 30 offense in the country, you would laugh at me. But it's true. They are. Statistically, they're, I think, 31 or 32 in total offense. The problem is that they're one of the worst team in penalties. They're one of the worst team in turnovers. And that's the same thing that happens to Bama. We're like, what's up with them? Well, you were going down the field to score. Then you have a 2nd and 2, and then you get a 10-yard penalty. Then you get a 5-yard false start. Like, those things kill drives. They kill momentum. So I don't want to take anything away from them with Missouri, but if there's one thing that seems to continue to be off, it's been that they just make critical errors in critical moments.
Yeah. The other, I mean, you mentioned Auburn. I mean, if not for just a horrendous turnover against Oklahoma and then just an absolute choke job against, I mean, what would they be? They'd be 6-2, right? Are they 4-4 right now?
I mean, yeah. TJ, if they would,
those plays happen. Like, you can't just take them away, but like, still, like, they find ways to lose games up there.
Well, right. Like, I mean, I don't think they lose against Mizzou. I don't think they lose against Cal. I don't think that they lose. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, billion turnovers against Cal. That's a good point. They should be 7-1.
They should probably be 6-2, 7-1. And so, but see, that's the thing, TJ, that I look at. You know what team that's winning that everybody's like, oh my God, I can't believe they're winning and they're beating Bama and they're a 3-point loss to Texas. Well, Vanderbilt doesn't commit those penalties. Yeah, they don't commit those brutal mistakes. Yeah. So you want to know why those games are close? You want to know why Texas is in a dogfight with Vandy? It's because on a 3rd and 1, they have a false start and then a holding penalty, right? Like that, like TJ, in today's game, I don't know if it's portal, I don't know what's going on because this is something that's been a little bit more new. Why the chalk is fighting around with teams like Vanderbilt is because these big-time players are making big-time mistakes. Like, your left tackle can't have a holding penalty. And so that's going to kill drives. And look, it's not just in the SEC. I see it with Miami. I see it with Ohio State. I see it with Oregon. Like, all of those situations, it's not just one program. It is across the board that like this is happening. So if I'm looking at Bama as a specific thing, Jalen Milroe has a 9-yard run. TJ got called back for a holding. Like I mean, that's a 20. That's
a fifth of the field.
Right, that's a 20-point swing. I mean, 20-yard swing. Like that just cannot happen. So those are the things. And here's another thing too. I had an official tell me this the other day. He watched Ruffino and Joe show, and he sent me a DM. He's like, "Listen, I'm not trying to like Monday morning quarterback or like talk about people." He's like, "But dude, some of these holding calls, some of these penalties, we legitimately would have never called, right? Like, I mean." He's in the chest plate. Like the offensive lineman's in the chest plate. So, I mean, like if he's got a little grab on it, like we let that go. So I think that it's a whole bunch of things. You know, I asked him, I was like, is it a conspiracy theory to think like that maybe, you know, like Greg Sankey said, hey, we want people tuning in to Texas and Vandy, throw that flag. You know, like just this stupid small, throw that flag. Like what? Who else is talking to you in that earpiece? Like, Don't be lying to me. But anyway, that's a completely different conspiracy theory. You know, but those are the things, TJ, that are killing everybody. It 1,000% is killing these teams. Like when you look at Bama versus South Carolina as an example, TJ, what did they do in the second half? Well, they had 7 penalties, around 70 yards. Want to know why a good defense and a team that can't move the football is in the game with you? It's because you're making mental mistakes.
Yeah. What if you had to rate it coming out of the A&M game, you know, and looking at the rest of the schedule, what is your, 1 to 10 concern level coming out of that A&M game? Do you see it as more of an anomaly or something that's pretty serious that needs to be dealt with?
Well, for me, so I got in trouble with this with A&M fans. You're asking me the perception of a fan base. I don't know if you saw it. It had like 500,000 views, and A&M fans were like mad at me. So I'm gonna be very cautious when I say this. This is not my perception. TJ, I put it about a 5 right now because I think that you can beat Bama at home. I think you can win out. You can win at Florida. You can win against Oklahoma. You can beat Vandy. The next 3 or 4 games from an LSU perspective, you're at home. I still have confidence in you. If you are Brian Kelly, if you're the dude that everybody says that you are and the guy that you actually are, you go 4-0. Now, the level of the fan base in their concern would probably be about an 8 or a 9 because, TJ, listen, I don't want to go to a Cheez-It Bowl. They don't want to go to a Cheez-It Bowl. They don't want to go to a ReliaQuest Bowl. And this is the issue that LSU has had. TJ, they have had the talent. That's a reason why they're second in NFL draft picks, okay, like in college football. There's all this talent all over the place, and then you're still going 9-3, right? Like that's the issue. Like think about this. When LSU played Florida State last year, so what? They're in a dogfight against a playoff contending team. So Jaden Daniels has 2 touchdowns. Well, wait, Joe Burrow in 19 had 2 touchdowns versus Auburn, which is the best defense that you saw all year. Those, like, you got to play complementary football. So I think the stress level is an 8 because you're paying a dude $10 million a year. And if you're going to keep going to the Cheez-It Bowl and we're in 9-3 purgatory, that's because of Les Miles. This place will be like, look, man, TJ, it's like saying that how can I have the same talent as Georgia and Bama from draft picks, and you're going to sit here and tell me that we shouldn't be there with them? There's only one thing that it can be. It's got to be coaching. That's how they feel about it. It's how they look about it. And TJ, be honest with you, it's probably how they should look at it. So I think for me, a 5. I still have confidence in it. Be honest with you. I don't know, and if a blessing in disguise to some extent, it's not a little bit better that you can refocus, lock in, because I don't think that you can go in Atlanta and beat any one of those teams that you're going to face off in there anyway. So that's what I would say. So now, who are you? I said this morning. I said it last night. I'll say it again here. You're about to find out what the culture is built behind Brian Kelly at LSU. Because now everything's on the line. TJ, if they miss the playoffs, it's going to be a massive deal, right? And so now you're going to find out how good of a coach are you, how much do your players respect you and want to fight for you, and even if you lose, how do you lose? But I think that this team's got to find a way in the playoff, and if they don't, man, it's going to get listen, play around and find out around the bayou and see what happens. I'm just telling you, you can't do that around here. I don't care if you got $100 million. Like it doesn't matter. This place will find a way to, like, see you, dog. I mean, they did it to Ed. I mean, the dude had the best team maybe ever. And then within a year, he didn't even make it 2 years. He made it a year and a half, and they're like, snip, snap, you're fired. So it's just how it's going to be. Now, I don't think Brian Kelly gets fired, and I do think, TJ, they went out. But if you're talking about stress level, the stress level is really high, which if I'm a Bama fan, I'm like, you know what, man? I really hate that they lost, because then that place in 2 weeks is going to be so chaotic, because TJ, LSU fans are yearning. Like they are desperate to get back into the relevancy of being a playoff contending team.
Blake, where can people follow you? Where can they find your work? I know you do national stuff and LSU stuff. Where can people get all that?
I didn't know that I had a hair piece. The hair gel didn't help with its alfalfa side here. But anyway, Ruffino and Joe show Sunday, Monday, and Wednesdays. We also do recorded stuff like on Tuesdays. We break down as many games throughout the week as we can. I greatly appreciate it if everybody goes over there and subscribes. And then just AYS Sports. We're doing SEC. We do LSU. So TJ, really, I sit here all day and talk about football, and I feel like I talk about football all day long. I guess I should be. That's my job to do it, I guess. But that's where they can find me. And A&M fans, just calm down. Calm down on me. Like, I still picked you to win. I still said that you were going to lose by 1. They're mad at me, TJ. I got to get back in the good graces of College Station, I guess. But that's where you can find all of our stuff.
The only team in the SEC right now that's undefeated in conference. They just live on that. Like, be happy. There's nothing to be sad about for A&M.
So I'll say this. I'm not going to bring up the man's name. If I say something and then you disagree with it and then you quote tweet it, I give you the obligatory one quote tweet, right? Like, all right, your team won. Don't be coming after me multiple times. Because
5 times. I can't do it. I can't.
So I'm just going to let you know. I am a bookmark king. Call it petty, but that's why things get nasty. Don't do it. I will sit there for hours to find the tweets that I've bookmarked. So you might want to chill out.
Thank you, Lord, for not letting him revisit those bookmarks after both New Orleans and Orlando. So I appreciate Jesus for that.
Yeah. I tell you what, in Orlando, it was like midway through the third quarter, I started unbookmarking things from Florida.
I'm done.
Yeah, this is bad. Okay.
My problem is I forget to unbookmark them, so I don't unbookmark them until the next time that I go revisit bookmarks, which I have not been able to all year. I mean, I'm going to fight with Cal Twitter, and so which I did a little bit, but I don't. So I'll be like, I go revisit things like, I got like 4 things to unbookmark, or like 4 different occurrences.
Right. So. Well, and look, if you're gonna call me out, I don't take any of this stuff personally. Like, it's not a real place. But don't delete the tweet either. Don't delete it. You can't come after me and then delete the tweet. So I'll be good for it too. But don't come after
the take. Right. I don't take videos down. I don't private videos. I don't take tweets down.
We don't either. They got after Joe last night. And they were like, "You going to take the video?" No, we're not taking no videos down. What are you doing?
It's my take. Go watch it again. I like when people revisit them because then I get double the the views. I got somebody.
Yeah, we had one from Penn State in the beginning of the year. It was like from August, and it's already like reemerging. And I'm like, okay, so what did we say was wrong? Well, nothing. But you said that we would probably be undefeated going into Ohio State. And I'm like,
well, you are.
Well, you are. Like, what are we talking about?
The Arkansas fans lit up my Mississippi State guy last week. They were just like, I can't, but I was like, all right, all right, Arkansas, maybe sit down just a little bit. So,
hey, Mississippi State's going to beat somebody. Ole Miss better be on the watch out. They're going to upset somebody.
I'm here for that. I'm here for that in the Egg Bowl. So, yes, Blake, I appreciate you, man.
See you, man. We'll have a good one.
Thanks, buddy.